Hi, my name's Lacie Hull.
My name's Kiana Williams.
My name's DiJonai Carrington.
My name's Lexie Hull, and we are all part of the Stanford women's basketball team.
For our project, we decided to explore the psychology of competition.
To do this, we interviewed 14 student athletes from various varsity sports teams on campus.
We discussed topics ranging from injury to body image and even mental health.
In doing this, we were able to shed light on how their respective sports affect their psyches.
Through this video, we hope to show that being a student athlete requires more than just skill. Enjoy!
My name is Amelia Talkington, and I currently am on Stanford Run.
Tammy Latte, volleyball.
My name is Trajon Butler. I play football.
My name is Andrew Abrahamian, and I play soccer.
Frank James Buncombe IV, and I play football.
My name is Jake Barry, and I am on the wrestling team here.
I'm Ian Gunther. I do men's gymnastics here at Stanford.
My name is Kyla Bryant, and I am on the women's gymnastics team here at Stanford University.
I'm Michaela Brewer, and I'm on the women's basketball team.
Cameron Scarlett. I play football.
Trevor Stanback, men's basketball.
My name is Matt Anderson. I'm a senior on the swimming team.
Oscar Da Silva, and I play basketball.
I'm Louis Stenmark, and I do track and field.
At its center is that you have to have all these moving parts that work together.
A way to get away from a lot of life that was just going on growing up.
Competing and the exercise of soccer.
I fell in love with the game when I was 7 years old, and I've just never been able to stay off the football field for a long time.
Outlet for me to just always clear my mind.
The mental aspect of the game.
It really boils down to you, and that makes you grow and evolve like as a person as well as a wrestler.
Gymnastics has this way of like making you feel like you're flying.
My teammates, that's probably my ultimate motivator, yeah.
The real deep battles we get into, real intense battles we get into as a team.
And the teammates, getting to work with them, getting to put in a lot of work preseason, off-season, and showing it and seeing it paying off on the court.
You know, getting pushed further than you would on your own, and it's kind of meditative in that sense, I guess, and so it's kind of the process.
It's just the brotherhood and the bond of all my teammates.
You have to anticipate and communicate and all that.
She's improving every day and trying to be better each day.
I feel like a typical Wednesday is waking up early, about 6 a.m. to get over to the locker room, get changed for a lift about 7 a.m. That takes about an hour, hour and a half. Then rushing over to get to breakfast, grab a box to go, then rushing to get to a 9:30 class, and then debating about going to the next class, but trying to stay on track to then go back to meetings about 1 o'clock. Get out of meetings around 3, change on the field by 3:45, practice over about 6, coach talk for 15 minutes about some philosophical thing that he's going through. Back in the locker room by 7 after doing some extra work, out the shower by 8 because you're gonna talk with your teammates, and then back to the room about 9 o'clock after grabbing dinner, and then staying at some homework. I'm probably going to bed about 12, 1 o'clock in the morning, and repeat.
I get up pretty early, 7-ish. Breakfast, lift, class, practice, the whole eat, work, sleep, repeat.
A typical day during the season starts early with a 7 a.m. lift, and then I go to breakfast. After breakfast, I'm going to work at this biotech startup, or I'm going to class. I come back, we have film for 2 hours, practice for 2 hours, dinner. I know I forgot lunch in there, but that gets missed or eaten somewhere. Then after dinner, do my homework and watch a little film, go to bed and do it all over again.
So definitely academically, first and foremost, it's exhausting. I'm sure you guys know that as well. You come back from practice and there's nothing you want to do except for lay in your bed and go to sleep or hang out with some people, but you have to, stay focused, stay the course, and do your work.
It's taken over my academic and social life. it's really just like football first, and then whatever else I can do, whatever else I can squeeze in. I mean, you have to adjust your classes around your football schedule. Take the classes that are only offered in the mornings, where that'll fit into your before meetings.
The whole road trip will leave like Tuesday and be gone through Saturday. So we do miss a lot of class, and it's kind of hard to make up for classes like that, especially for classes that have them recorded, especially if you like miss sections as well. We have a lot of makeup assignments that we have to do in terms of missing class.
Socially, it's the same kind of deal. It's you have to watch all of your friends, or not all of them, but your non-athlete friends, they'll go out on a Thursday or a Friday or a Saturday, and you just can't partake. And for wrestling, a lot of it has to do with weight. It's just simply we can't afford the calories.
I've been told I live under a rock sometimes.
I mean, you try and stay as close with as many people as you can, but there's only a certain number that you can do and still have time for. So definitely my circle is like a lot smaller.
And on the other hand, more often than not, we'll have a morning practice, or we just, we have a tough practice on, Friday afternoon. So we have to make sure that we got a lot of sleep. We have to feel good, so it really doesn't take more of a toll on us than it needs to.
Definitely demanding. 5 hours a day you're committing to your sport, and so that's 5 hours you don't have time for or to dedicate to anything else.
Yeah, 110%. Like, gymnastics is one of those sports where it's like, you're putting on a leotard. Like, that is, your body is like super vulnerable, like, and you're on TV. There's always like, you need to be tan before you go like to a meet that is going to be televised, because like there's lights that are going to be hitting you.
Expectation for the volleyball players, especially because we're not wearing that much clothing, and it's very tight for our butts to be big, and like for us to have tiny waists, and like
it's like a huge problem in like distance running. I think they just think that they should be like sticks just running around the track. I don't know what's up with that, but I just think it's like they all have an expectation that they should be like just really, really skinny, and the only thing they should have on them is like a muscle that's going to be like functional to just get them around the track. And you look at the people in the NCAA finals, and they're all just like verging on anorexic, which is pretty wild.
Like where the judges are sitting, and they look up at you, like they can take off any kind of deduction they want to. I know like my nails have to be a certain color. Like my body, and then my body in general just has to be like, gotta be little, gotta be petite. Cause like, if you gain like 5 pounds, like you will know, like, and it affects your gymnastics a lot. A lot of people end up getting injured because of that. So.
I've missed family events. I guess if you count watching my little sisters grow up, that would count for me.
So my freshman year, I wanted to go to South Africa through the ACE program that Stanford offers, and I got into the program, was all set and ready to go. And then I had a meeting with my coaches, and they were like, we'd actually prefer if you stayed to do rehab, because I've had a chronic injury with my knees, and so they were going to do a procedure for me, and then they wanted me to do the rehab during the summer.
Family, it catches them off guard because the role I play in my family, and a lot of stuff that I do for myself is definitely difficult because I'm just a really big family person. At the end of the day, that's all we got sometimes. And to be away from them, especially during like important times in our lives, it's always tough to watch it through a phone or seeing pictures of it afterwards.
Definitely in high school, more than college. So in high school, I played for a semi-professional academy, and that didn't allow me to play for my high school team. So nobody really knew how I played soccer or what it looked like. So the fact that I was there, like, kind of drove a wedge in my relationship with my friends at school.
The hours of like 2 to 7 are kind of blocked out. So anything that falls in those hours, tough luck, that whether it be office hours, a special guest lecture you want to go to, you just can't, and it's just the sacrifices that you have to make for the sport.
I mean, just miss holidays every year, but I mean, important events kind of changed since I came into college. Like things that I used to think important, like Christmas, Easter, all those holidays just kind of taking the back seat.
We don't get Thanksgiving break. We go home for like 2 days for Christmas break. So we're here a lot of the times, especially like during summer. And so like I don't get to see my family that often.
The weigh-in Saturday, you stop, you eat smaller, full meals, the Sunday before. Monday is pretty good. Tuesday you still eat 3 meals, but it's like smaller quantities. Wednesday it's like, okay. Thursday you're having like, a hard-boiled egg and some vegetables at night, some cashews during the day, or something small like that, healthy. And then like Thursday night, like there goes your water, right? And so like you finish practice, you can't hydrate after, you go to sleep, and it's just awful. You can't sleep at all. Like the nights before tournaments, I would say most guys sleep like 4 hours, because you're like, your body doesn't know what to do with itself. Like I have just terrible stories in high school of like literally sucking the melted ice cubes off like a hotel counter just because I'm like stepped on the scale, I have 0.1 to give, and I'm like, oh thank God, and just the tiniest little bit. But so what it does for your friends and family is when you are in a terrible mood all the time, you don't want to do anything, you like physically can't, you don't have the energy, and so you're grumpy, you're pissy, you snap at people. You aren't fun to be around because you can't do anything, nor do you want to do anything. You just kind of want to, be to yourself and think about how shitty it all is.
Well, ultimately, injury did affect my career and led me to stop playing football. I was either going to declare this year or come back and play my 5th year at Stanford because I had another year of eligibility. But towards the end of the season, I started experiencing pain in my spine. And after the season, I got an MRI, and I have 4 bulging discs, and one of them started to rotate a little bit, and that was what was causing my spinal pain. So at that moment, I always told my family if anything ever happened to my head, neck, or back, I'd stop playing football, and at that moment, it's time to hang up the cleats.
After that, I was looking like I was in the Olympic squad and everything for 2016, and I was like so stoked. I was like so set on it. And it was like a dream of mine to be an Olympian and everything like that. And I was like, this is it. Like I could do this in the next year. And like I'm still in high school, so I was like stoked as. Then I was getting really solid training and everything in, and then I tore my hamstring, and then I was like, oh, this this sucks obviously, but like let's just keep going. Like we'll get there. And then I rehabbed everything out. Like then maybe like 8 weeks later, I was like, oh yeah, like let's trial again. And then I tore my hamstring again, the exact same one, in the exact same place in the race and everything. And I was like, oh well, this is a bit unfair. And then I kept training and like had to just be like, okay, I can't make the Olympics now, that's all right, like I'll just move forward. And like that taught me heaps. But then I tore my hamstring again, and then like I've torn my hamstrings, like both of them like 3 times each. And it's like been very frustrating, but I've learned like an infinite amount.
Mentally, I think it was really, really tough for me for those first couple of years where we weren't doing as much preventatively, because like it was just something extra that I always had to be thinking about. So like in terms of blocking, it was like I need to get to this point this quickly, but like even before I could do my first movement, I was thinking about how much it would hurt before I like pushed off. So like it's always just like that conversation you're having in your head about like, oh, there's something that's preventing me and I have to get over that hump before I can move on.
My first instance was in January when it first happened, and it was pretty traumatic just because like I blacked out and there's like a whole period of time that I don't remember, and it's kind of worrisome just because like if it is a heart issue, like it's hard for me to get back on the court and just like really just like play without thinking about the injury, just because I like, since the doctors haven't found out what happened or like why it happened, there's nothing to prevent it, and so like being on the court is kind of a liability from at least my standpoint in terms of like getting injured, or like the standpoint of like the doctors and the coaches. I've done a lot of tests for them just to try to figure it out, and they've all come back cleared, which is not really reassuring because you kind of want to, at least at the end of the day, have something to hang your hat on. And so like not being able to figure out why it's happened, but like being cleared of everything major pretty much took a big toll on me. And also just not being able to play. It's like you come here wanting to play basketball and just being out for a reason like you can't really figure out. It's pretty tough.
Yes, I see a lot of football players pushing through those pains, and I was actually one of them because my spine started hurting after about week 7. But every week I didn't want to let down my teammates. I would finish some of the practices and come in the locker room shedding a few tears because my spine was really killing me, and sometimes at night I'd have trouble falling asleep because of the pain that I was feeling. So once I was able to fight through that last game and fight through the bowl game and thankfully finish with a win, I knew that I was shutting things down and it was time for me.
No, and I personally, I don't think our coaches do a very good job with that. Having been through some difficult mental health things myself, I was allowed to be absent for a very, very long period of time in the middle of the season, and I would say semi-supported in that decision. I was also admitted to the hospital not by my own choice, and so I think that was an interesting situation, but our coaching staff, I wouldn't say we're completely on side with everything that happened during that time frame.
I guess I get really bad anxiety, and it travels over into insomnia, so I don't sleep a lot, and literally one night I didn't sleep at all, and then I went to practice that morning, and obviously it was a 6 a.m. practice. I was very delirious, and you just kind of have to work with what you have and put forth as much as you can, and you have to be able to kind of turn off that mental part that's wow, you didn't get any sleep, you're gonna do really badly. You kind of just have to block that out and tell yourself, you know what, I'm out here, I'm going to improve, this is an opportunity to improve, I need to make the most of it.
For example, our coach, he makes us, regardless of whether we like it or not, but meet with him on a bi-weekly basis just to check in to see where we're at, where our head's at. I don't personally like talking about myself, so it was uncomfortable at first, especially in the transition, because he came going into my junior year. It was something that you had to get used to, but I think especially for people like me who don't like to talk, it just gave you an opportunity to discuss where you're struggling, and the last thing he would always ask is, how can I help you, or what can I do to help make things easier for you? And even if you didn't have something to respond with at the time, just knowing that it's always an option to be yeah, this is actually, I do have something to say.
For sure, it's very hard to see, and I don't know, it is just something I have to keep in mind, when I'm playing, and for me with, specifically for me, it's obsessive compulsive disorder, and so things will happen in my head in the middle of practice that I can't control, and I'll get yelled at for making a mistake, or for turning the ball over, whatever it is, and not that I want to put all the blame on a mental disorder, but sometimes it is to blame, and there's not really much I can say in that moment other than just kind of take it, because I don't want to disrupt anything, get in the way of anything. And so that's definitely something I've had to cope with and learn to understand.
I'm not so sure about mental health from a prevention standpoint, but definitely when people kind of hit rock bottom, that's something that's addressed. So we don't have a perfect system on our team. Things are spoken about when they need to be, but it's not a check-in kind of thing. It's really more on us. If we're open and honest about ourselves, then we'll kind of get the resources that we need. But there's not a whole lot of check-in stuff within our team from an administrative standpoint.
I will admit, the stigma that football has is tough sometimes about, not crying, not showing weakness, and fearing no one and just having this sense of an attitude. But I will say parts of it that's bad is because of this sense of, oh, I gotta be tough and I got to be this hard dude. It creates the problem with guys who get hurt and don't want to speak up, and that's where a lot of, I feel like, health issues do come into play with guys with concussions and guys are trying to walk it off when they really need to save themselves. And talking about long-term effects of not being able to hold your child at 30 or being there with your mom later in life.
First, I'll touch on like what I was talking about before with, you know, guys beat you up and you beat guys up, and that is like a pretty deciding factor of like who stands where on the team, because it's like it's just like a fight, but it's controlled and it's your sport also. So, you know, you get a lot more respect if you just, you know, if you toy with a guy, you know, you have your way with a guy. You can do what you want. You shove his face in the mat. You can do all sorts of like, you know, sometimes mean, sometimes like toughness building things.
We are doing a like trial run or like period of these two leaders coming in and talking to us about what it's like to be good men in sport. So what we talk about is kind of like the values and like what it means to be a man, and it's different than what the social stereotypes kind of force you to believe. There's like kind of a man box that they call it that you're kind of put into, but that's not the whole truth. So we're looking at like breaking down role models that we find in sport and also in life to talk about and kind of like take those traits into our own lives.
Oftentimes, the players feed into this personality where we have to fight through certain pains, like a hyper-masculinity. We're not allowed to let our pain take us down, and I definitely think that feeds into it.
A series of questions is like, you know, do you touch other guys' dicks? Like, have you ever been hard? Like, stuff like that, which is like, I know it's super funny to say, but it's like a real thing. It's like, oh, how's your leotard? And it's like, yeah, I understand why you say that, but on the other hand, it's, you know, a very tough sport and it's a combat sport, and like if we wanted to right now we could beat the crap out of you, you know. So it's like one of those back and forths where it's like, yeah, no, I get it, haha, very funny, but also like, no, this is pretty serious. And so like the relationship between like, is it like gay to be a wrestler versus like, is it super masculine, is kind of weird, because on the one hand you can't get more masculine than combat sports, but on the other hand we're grabbing other sweaty dudes in tight, you know, leotard like things. And so it's like definitely a funny thing.
I hope my spine heals up pretty soon so that doesn't affect me in the long run and I'm able to lift up my kids and my grandchildren. Ultimately that would be the best thing for me.
But all these expectations about myself and what I should do, and you know what my teammates thought that I should do, and you know if I was or wasn't living up to those expectations. And you know, I actually found myself at the end of last year, nothing serious or anything, but developing like some like, you know, halfway serious anxiety complexes and things like that.
I think gymnastics is a really failure heavy sport. You fail a lot more than you succeed. So most people start when they're around like 4 to 8. So you learn from a young age how to deal with failure. And I think once you get to this level, I think it's impossible to get to this level without learning how to deal with failure.
It's definitely a risk. I mean, a lot of people deal with head injuries in the sport, and a lot of people don't really document head injuries in our sport. So I mean, I know it's a risk, and I know like when I do play the sport, like you're putting your body on the line
and around just day-to-day life, and you know when it starts to affect the way that you approach school and the way you approach home life and relationships and all the other things, you know, that's when like little details get kind of scary. So I don't think that any of that necessarily, I can't say that if I wasn't a swimmer that those things never would have come out, but thankfully, you know, I found myself in sports psychology, and I found myself kind of getting through some of those things. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out into the rest of life, whether, you know, those complexes like manifest in different ways and continue to persist, or if I've really kind of learned my lesson, so to speak, and can take these coping strategies and stuff through the rest. So it could be positive or negative. I could be like insanely positively affected by swimming, or it might have been like something that was pretty bad for me psychologically. But I'm hopeful for now. So.
Like my body's gonna start, like joints are gonna start hurting probably sooner than in other people who didn't play basketball.
I do not think an individual with a non-heterosexual orientation would feel comfortable in most football locker rooms. I just feel like the way that we joke about things and our preconceived notion that everybody is straight, so it's just okay to make jokes about certain demographics in that space. I just think it ultimately doesn't make it comfortable if somebody actually isn't straight to feel comfortable talking about that to other people on the team, unless it's just their best friend maybe. But as a whole, I don't think it would be referred to as a safe space.
I feel like, we're making jokes, like I said, like male dominant, but I feel like it's not like we would be outright just like disrespectful towards somebody if they, whatever sexuality, but I just feel like if it's like such heavy odds where it's like 85 players who are straight and then have one player who is homosexual, I just feel like that would be uncomfortable for anybody in any situation.
Yeah, and also too, if you're not a heterosexual guy, you're gonna notice things more so than I would. So people would definitely be much more comfortable in our locker room now than they would have been before, we had a current team member come out.
I swear there's a lot of different people from different countries coming together. Like I was saying before, like pronouns and stuff in Australia, no one would ever like think about that. I think it's moving towards that now because we're becoming a bit more like with it, I guess, if that's what you can call it. But I don't know, it takes a bit of getting used to. Like I still mess up and I feel bad. But I think it's really hard as well to expect like the whole like social order to change like straight away.
Relationships. Probably time
away from family.
Internships and stuff.
Yeah, like time with friends, time with family, time to like do schoolwork or whatever.
What people would say their college experience, like you don't really get that as a college athlete.
I listen to music a lot, but like some weird stuff. Like if I'm like really nervous, I've spoken about this like a lot in the past week, which is really weird, but when I'm nervous, I try and play the song Give It Up by Casey and the Sunshine Band. If you guys know that one. I'm not gonna like do a rendition of it right now, but it's like one of those songs that like you can't be like sad to when you're listening to it.
But I found that I'm like super tactile, so just a really way for me to like ground in the present, to say it best. I actually just literally rub the back of the blocks, and it's that kind of like grip tape-ish surface, and then after that I'm just kind of blacked out.
Kind of like try to like get in the zone. I don't like go over the game plan in my mind, like try to think about the opponent and what we try to do to like limit their points and how to attack them.
I just really try and get in the zone. I do like a lot of visualization and stuff like that. So I try and look at photos of like the track that I'm going to run at, or like just the layout of it, and know like different points in the race that I want to like be able to do stuff.